Hello everybody, welcome back to Wolfeei. Today we're going to be talking about Minecraft updates. Very unusual for this channel. Usually I stick to Minecraft events, but occasionally I'll talk about the main game in terms of what's changing. Because I think something about the recent approach to what Minecraft's been doing is very interesting, and I think it's something that I want to talk about in terms of how I view it. Because I don't really talk about Minecraft updates very often, really. In general, I don't really talk about how the game is progressing. I only talk about, MCC, block wars, or whatever. And I think it's interesting because there's stuff that's happening now that I think is notable and good. And I think there's a reason for why this is happening. We'll get into it very briefly. So first off, in case you're unaware, the way Mojang, the people who make Minecraft, is approaching updates is different this year, or at least starting this year. I think they announced it sometime last year, where instead of doing one major update each year, they're going to start doing small updates. Small game drops is what they call it, and I think alongside it, they're supposed to do 2 Minecraft lives, I think. I could be wrong, don't quote me on that. But they're essentially cutting down the scale of the updates, but there's more content, or more so you could say that it's the same content, more spread out. I don't think that's exactly how it works. We'll get into it why. But they're making smaller scale updates at a more frequent rate, which means you're going to get more new content spread out throughout the year, which is, in my opinion, overall positive. The only downside is you're not going to really have a major moment that brings attention to Minecraft in one cohesive place where everyone's going to be like, oh my god, new Minecraft stuff. It's more like, oh, there's a new Minecraft thing. And that's kind of the difference. So it's arguable whether this is better in terms of like marketing, hype, etc. But I do think in terms of actual quality of updates and quality of what the players get, this is a better approach. So let's get into what the game updates really look like, or the game drops. The first one was from like 2-3 weeks ago, which is where they introduced 2 new variants of the pig. The pig is obviously the one on the left here, a classic variant of mob, or just a classic mob that's been in the game for a very, very long time. And it kind of got a new, fresh coat of paint, a new fresh approach for one of the upcoming versions of Minecraft, in which there is a cold and a warm pig variant, in which I assume the orange one's the warm one and the white one's the cold one, or maybe it's the other way around. I don't know. I haven't played this. I didn't test this because this is not officially in the game yet. It's a snapshot. But this is, a new addition to Minecraft that I think is nice. Because one thing about Minecraft updates in general, which I'm just going to get all my thoughts out at a not very consistent and cohesive order. One thing about Minecraft that I think is important in terms of updates is 2 things. If you do an update, you either should take the existing content and change it, modify it, update it, modernize it, which is what they're doing here. They're taking the OG pig, they're not removing the OG pig, but they're adding on to the OG pig without making it, too odd or weird, and these are actual things you're gonna encounter in your game. Does it make a major impact? No, not really, but when you are playing the game, your experience is going to be altered slightly because, hey, there's a new type of pig. This one looks different than what you've seen before, and that's very nice. I think that's one way that you can do updates that is a good thing. The second thing is you can make brand new content that has actual impact on the game, and we're going to get into that here a little bit, but that's at the end, because I don't think Minecraft's been doing the best job at doing that recently. I've been watching IBX Toycat very briefly here and there talk about stuff, and one of the main things that they've said is that with some of the OG devs taking a step back and some of the newer devs coming in, one of the main things that may be happening is that the newer devs are not willing to take that risk of modernizing the game in a sense of like experimentation, trying something unique, overhauling something that existed previously. Whereas people like Jeb are much less, afraid or scared to do that. They're not really too worried about the public perception on something like that because they're confident that, with their original vision on the game, they can do this. And with the newer devs, who are the ones mostly responsible for some of the more recent and maybe some of the more current updates in Minecraft, you're mostly just seeing safe updates. Nothing people will complain about in the sense of ruining something that existed before, but you're also not really getting much that's having major impact on the game itself. So that's the two things to recap again. Either you modify what was there already and give it a little bit of a different twist, but to an extent that's not just absolutely useless, or you make a major new content addition that is somewhat useful, in which I think this is nice. This is not the only thing that they did. They also made some updates to the environment in ambience, which they've been doing in the second game drop that we'll get into in a little bit as well. You'll see some consistency between the two things. You'll have falling leaves falling from the trees, and there's also going to be, I think someone said that there's going to be sounds, maybe not this one. There's sounds in something else though. But you have falling leaves from trees, which is nice for ambience. While you're playing, it feels like you're a bit more engaged with the environment that you're in. Then also they said that lodestones are easier to craft, which is just an update to how the game functions. And then also there are white and yellow wildflowers that can be crafted into dye, which obviously this isn't going to be like overhauling anything in terms of how the game functions, right? You already have flowers that make dye. However, this is kind of a different approach to how you can, make your builds look a bit nicer. This is a thing they added recently with the cherry blossom stuff, etc., where you have the little flower petals that you can put together. And I think this is a very nice thing you can also do. You have, creative liberty with the amount of little flowers you put in one patch, and you can obviously just as a block put it anywhere you want. And I think for the builders and for decorative purposes, this is very nice. So I like that. And then here's the lodestone thing. So that's one. I think there might be another game drop that I missed, because I'm pretty sure there's also like falling leaf blocks on the floor. I could be wrong. Maybe that's a thing from a different. Oh yeah, leaf litter. Leaf litter, we don't see a screenshot of it, but there is a leaf litter written down here, which is kind of the same idea, I think, as the white and yellow wildflowers. I think, I could be wrong. Also, funnily enough, the leaf litter, if I remember correctly, is the most efficient way of doing fuel in furnaces as well now, because you can get it very easily, very quickly. I think it might have been Kaman who made a video about that. Regardless, there's another game drop, which dropped very recently, as in today, as of recording this, about 4 weeks, about 3 weeks after the previous one, where now also cow variants have been added to the game. And again, there's a cold and warm cow variant, which is very nice. This one is a little bit cooler to me than the pig one, because the cow itself has been updated to have a snout that sticks out, but also the variant of the biome, or the temperature variants rather, have horns that are different too. You'll see them better here, where this one, which I assume is the warm one, but I could be wrong, could be the cold one. This one on the left has larger horns, and then this other new one, this yellowish one, has smaller but still bigger horns than the OG one, and I think that's very cool. So cow variants, just like the pig variants, there's a warm and a cold variant that you can find now, and I think that's just nice. It's a slightly different feel to vanilla Minecraft, something that honestly in texture packs, this type of stuff happened quite a lot previously. And also another thing that's just nice about this is, in terms of mini games and just custom approach to public servers and stuff like that, having more mob options within the same mob is just nice, because you can modify all of this if you really want to do it with creative items. Furthermore, there is the new Lush Plant, which is this little item that or block that you see on the floor. It's like a grass-ish block, but it looks a little bit different. And what this does is it makes your builds glimmer in the dark with the firefly bush, which I assume is it's the firefly bush, but it's a lush plant, which lush, I guess, is a type of plant, which is where these little firefly-esque bits come from, which I think is very nice, because fireflies, or more so the ambience from fireflies, is something people really want to see. I think something like the pink flower in the lush caves that drops the little particles and stuff is already very nice. So something like this is also very cool to have as another option to create ambience. What I do wonder is what happens if you combine all these things into one. What if you make a room that has the leaves that can fall from the leaf blocks. It has the pink flower from the Lush Caves, and then it also has this on the floor. Do you just get particle spam in your little building or whatever you're doing this? Maybe. I mean, I think it'd be interesting to test that for sure. More so, also on this more recent update this is what I was talking about in terms of ambient sounds. In the desert, you will now hear dunes stir, winds howl, crickets chirp, and more ambient sounds. Just in the desert, which I think is very nice. It makes the desert and just any environment that might receive these types of updates in the future feel a little bit more special and more engaging. Is how I would say it. You feel more involved in the game itself. It's not actually changing how the game functions, but it feels different, and I think that's important. And finally, because I don't want to yap for too long. So I like these, right? The game drops, I think, great, nice approach. Obviously, they're not going to only do this type of game drop forever. There's going to be game drops that might have something brand new that's, a bit more unique and different and maybe slightly more impactful. But these types of game drops, I think, are very nice because they keep the game slightly fresh without doing too much. And also because it is at a more consistent pace, it feels like a lot is happening. Even if that's high amount of new content may, or even when the new content may seem pretty small. However, at the end, because I assume this video is titled Minecraft Updates Are Actually Good or something along those lines, I want to talk about this. So this was the most recent Minecraft Live where they introduced the Pill Garden and the Creaking. Now, this update, I could be missing or forgetting something from this. This update, when it came out, was slightly underwhelming, you could say. Not that I think the creaking is bad or that the Pill Garden is necessarily bad. I just think the way that it was implemented is a little underwhelming. Because I think it's really cool to have this creaking mob, right, that functions very differently. The way it spawns is really cool with the heart, and the way you have to implement the blocks, etc. is really cool. The only issue with this this mob or this biome really so far is that it doesn't really feel like a part of the game. It more so feels like it's like kind of plus one into the game rather than like properly incorporated. If you've seen screenshots of people looking around in Pill Gardens, you'll see like dark oak forests where there's just a patch of gray, and this is the patch of gray. Additionally, this doesn't really like do too much either in terms of how it affects the game. You have a cool little new guy and he functions differently, but it doesn't really do much for so far as I can tell. I'm sure there's actually more functionality, but keep in mind I'm a much more casual player who only really watches the updates and the videos and the live streams that Mojang makes when it's announced. I might be missing some stuff from how this is functioning, so if I am wrong, I might be wrong, but just wanted to express my opinion on, like, to me, this is slightly underwhelming. To be fair, I do think the expectation and the request and the want from the audience might be slightly too high. Something that has been extremely frequently talked about is an end update, and I do think an end update would be really cool to have in Minecraft, right? Something that people may be used to now, but that had major impact positively on the game was when the Nether got upgraded from its pre-1.16 version to its 1.16 and beyond version, which was significantly better. You had more biomes in the game than just one, etc. Right? It was insane. So I just hope that we end up seeing like an end update that maybe could be in that same like vein of quality. But I also think that the time should be given for that to maybe be able to happen. I don't want to see an end update. And also keep in mind, the end did get an update, a brief and small one, but still an impactful one. I think it was around like 1.10, maybe 1.12. I could be wrong. And I do think it would be nice to have another one, but I'd rather have them take some extra time to make a grandiose one similar to 1.16 with the Nether than them just do an end update because people asked for it and it's just kind of like whatever, right? They should make an end update that makes a bigger impact. Also, it would be cool, of course, to get another dimension at some point, but again, should be something that has significant impact, has significant input into how the game functions differently, and something that isn't rushed. So, kind of to recap again, I think game drops are nice. Small content updates is good at a frequent pace, especially when it is safe but still fun. It's not safe necessarily, but it's like fun new additions or twists to things that you're used to without taking away what was already there. I think this is very nice. I think just ambient and environment is always important as well to pay attention to. And I think in terms of the actual updates themselves, I would like to see them kind of just take a bit more of a risk. Maybe instead of looking at adding new biomes and new whatever, maybe look into making the new content alternative versions of old things. Kind of change it a little bit. Because another thing that has been brought up a lot is that updating the game only really has impact if you kind of notice it more frequently, right? And one of the main arguments that I think is valid for this is with the mangrove swamp not being part of the swamp or being an updated version of the swamp, but rather being its own standalone biome, which now makes the swamp kind of dull. It makes the swamp not as interesting, where what they could have done is they could have fixed the swamp, essentially, right? They could have made the swamp more interesting by making the mangrove swamp and the swamp one cohesive thing. So hopefully they would look into doing that type of stuff, because this Pill Garden, yeah, I mean, it's being its own biome makes sense because of the way it functions, but it could have been more a part of the Dark Forest and maybe more of an update of the Dark Forest, where it's still like it's still part of the Dark Forest and kind of like is reminiscent of it, but still different enough and updates the Dark Forest without just kind of feeling like a +1 addition. Because I think that's one of the main things that's kind of like whatever about this. Anyways, that's my thoughts on the Minecraft updates. More so the game drops of January so far. I think this is a good step in the right direction from Mojang, and I hope to see them continue doing more like this. Not every mob needs variants, but I do think it'd be nice to see some ambient update attention across the game from time to time, and then also some maybe some new content that fits in nicely. Maybe a small mob here and there or something that can just feel like it's gonna be part of the environment. People mentioned how could you have cricket sounds but not actual crickets. Maybe they could add actual crickets. Who knows? Anyways, thank you for watching. Those are my thoughts, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.